afternoon we're working on, it's a 122S Volvo. There's several other similar models and such, but this is actually an alternator change. This particular make, model, year, along with about a decade after this car, decade even before this car, it's actually called the generator. And more commonly than actually what I'm doing, I'm actually just going to swap out an alternator for an alternator, or people actually doing conversions, that being from a generator to an alternator. Basically the only tools I'm using is about a ½ inch. That's for the big bolt in the front. I would suggest taking that out actually last. And then we got about a 5/16. This is a 5/16. This is just for these little screws and such that go around it, and we're going to kind of get a shot of that here now. Back over here is just a close-up of the 5/16. We'll call them bolts. They would attach here. There's a total of 3 of them. In fact, actually there's 2 of them. I take that back. This is actually a flathead screw. You want to take this off here. Nothing needs to be removed. I am actually, only just for videography purposes, have removed this hose here because it was just loose. This otherwise would just actually go into my air filter here behind the Stromberg carburetors. But what we're going to do now, again, I first said let's take this one off first because the belts are actually holding all this together. I actually, in turn, I'm going to turn this bolt back here that could be accessed from either up here or underneath the car. We don't really have the floor jack, so we're going to actually come at it from above. It's not least, I'm using an open-ended wrench. Actually, I'm using the closed-ended side of the wrench. This is a 15. I have a 17 down there. And in fact, I'm purposely not taking it out because what I've done is, in fact, I tried using a vice grip on this back nut. There's a back nut to this last bolt on the very back side of the generator. That didn't work. A open-ended, what do you call it, channel locks, didn't work. So my number 17 is down there. In fact, I can show you. And I'm coming on it. It's a 14, I guess. Of course, it's 2 different sizes on either side. I'm basically pointing. I don't know if you can see it right there. That's just on the nut itself, and it's actually pinned. It's trapped by the chassis itself. I'm gonna come around. It's an exhaust manifold right in the way. Okay, so just on the other side of that wrench is where I have my socket on there. I can't remember what size. And then, anyway, so I have that on there, and I just have it on only a couple of threads. So we're just backing that off here, and it should just fall off into our hands. In fact, it's a good idea to support it because it literally does want to just fall. It's only being held by a belt on one side and it wants to clank on the other side, which isn't good. All right, well, you got to be patient with it because you're only able to get about like 13 degrees on each turn here. I got about hand tight. I can feel the nut on the other side. You see the nut's actually in there. I'm going to pull out, I'd almost describe it instead of a bolt, it's more of a screw. Go ahead and pull that back a little bit. And then there's the generator. It feels like kind of loose. Alright, so the next step is they do have a bench tester over at your local Cragen, or they call it O'Reilly's now, Pet Boys, where they can test there's like brushes and bushings and who knows all of it in here. Just to do a test for peace of mind, I know that indeed it wasn't just a connection, because there were a count of about 4 or 5 connections. 100% completely taken out of the car. Here's where we are in proximity to the engine. I'll call this the bracket. This is an original bracket to hold a generator. This is where you'd put a conversion if you were to turn it to an alternator. Because I've just found out since the last recording, these generators are very hard to get. Bosch, I think, was one that just completely discontinued it. This is, I advise, probably of all the different things, let this be second to last. That's the nut and bolt to take out. And this being the last, this is the hardest to get to because you have to have a wrench to get the on the back of the nut here. And this is a very long screw-looking bolt that's about this long right here.